Hey everybody, welcome to Preaching Donkey. My name is Lane Sebring. I'm the host of the Preaching Donkey podcast, which you can find on iTunes, and I'm the author of Preaching Killer Sermons, How to Create and Deliver Messages That Captivate and Inspire. You can find that on Kindle and on paperback through Amazon. You can check it out there. Today I want to be talking about 2 questions that you should ask, that you should nail down of every sermon you preach. Before you get up to preach, during your preparation, what are the 2 questions that you must know? Here they are. Number 1 is, what is the objective for this message? And number 2, what is the desired response? What is the objective? And what I mean by objective is I'm asking the question when I'm looking at my sermon and I'm preparing all the different places it's going to go. My objective is, what do I want the sermon to do? What do I want the sermon to do? Now, the desired response is, what do I want people to do with the sermon? So the objective is, what do I want the sermon to do? And the desired response is, what do I want people to do with the sermon? So let me go back to the objective. So the objective is the question that's asking when you look at the sermon and you think about the sermon in terms of it's active. It lives, it moves, it breathes, it takes on flesh and blood. Once you stand up and you begin to preach, now all of a sudden this thing that you've spent all this time creating and writing and talking to other people about, talking to your preaching team about, you get up in front of your church and that sermon takes on action. It does something, and you need to tell it what to do. You need to make sure that that sermon is only doing what you want it to do. And so I nail this question down during my preparation. What do I want this sermon to do? Now, there's all kinds of different objectives that you could have. Let's say your sermon is about forgiveness. Okay, I want this sermon to give people the why behind the what of forgiveness. That could be your objective. Now let me just say, no one knows your objective except you. You're not going to stand up in front of your church and say, today's objective is, I want you to know the why behind the what of forgiveness. Now, nobody cares about that. Here's why only you know the objective. The objective is the metadata that as the sermon creator, as the writer of this piece of content, you are mapping out for yourself, where is this going? What's the point of all this? So that you can measure against that as you go. So when I set out, if I'm doing a message on forgiveness, the why behind the what of forgiveness, I'm saying, okay, I want people to know that Jesus calls us to forgive. Why? Why does Jesus call us to forgive? Forgiveness is the what. So we're going to talk about the what. How do we forgive? What does it look like? Who do we forgive? How many times? 70 times 7. All those different things that Jesus says. Basically an infinite number of times you forgive your brother. Why? Why? Because God forgave you, right? So I want people, this message will show the why behind the what of forgiveness. That's the objective. That's what this message does. And why that's so important is because when you're writing a sermon, when you're developing any piece of content, it's almost like a movie. If you've ever been around or heard a director talk or an editor, what they talk about is the reason why movies have so many deleted scenes is because they shoot 2.5 hours worth of content for a 90-minute movie. Because once they get into the editing room, anything that doesn't serve the plot goes. It goes. Anything that doesn't serve the plot is gone. And it's why it makes for much better movies. In fact, I remember my very favorite movie in the whole world. I got the DVD that had the deleted scenes and the extended cut. I was so excited. Oh, this is going to be so cool. All this stuff I haven't seen before about this movie. And so I go in there and I watch all the bonus content. You know what? I was disappointed. It wasn't that good. The movie was better. What they decided to leave in there was the stuff that should have been left in. The stuff they took out needed to go. Why? Because it didn't serve the plot. And as the creators of that film, they knew that. The same is true when you write a sermon. You're the creator of that sermon. Okay? God is working through you as his spokesperson to create this message, and everything, or anything I should say, that doesn't serve the objective has to go. So if the objective is this message will show the why behind the what of forgiveness, everything else has to go. That means if a story is kind of fun to tell, but it doesn't aim at that objective, it has to go. If this kind of tertiary or secondary point is a neat thought, but it doesn't serve that objective, it has to go. Why? I want my messages to be focused, to be crystal clear, that people can walk away. I don't mean shallow, I don't mean superficial, I don't necessarily even mean simple, because sometimes messages are complicated. I aim for simplicity, but what I'm mainly saying is that if I've nailed down my objective, that this will demonstrate the why behind the what. Why do we need to forgive? What are we called to in forgiveness, and why? Why are we called to that? Then this message is a win. It's done what it needs to do. That's the objective. What do I want this message to do? Now, the second question is, what do I want people to do with the sermon? Okay, so now all of a sudden the objective of the message serves the action that they're going to take. So the desired response, I say I want people to do something with this message. Otherwise, it's just content. It's just noise. It's just words until something is done with it, right? So what do I want them to do with the message? And so maybe it's a variety of things, but I can nail it down typically to one sentence, and everything kind of falls in this category. So for this, if the objective is I want them to know the why behind the what, I want to show the why behind the what of forgiveness, then the desired response would be to say, I want them to be motivated and take action on forgiving the last person who hurt them, okay? Because when I'm in the sermon, I'm going to be tugging at all these different emotions of you think you shouldn't forgive that person, and there's anger there, and there's hurt, and you kind of tell yourself you forgave them, but you really haven't, or maybe you just decided that it's just best that we never talk to each other again. And so when they're listening to the message, what I want them to do with it is I want them to be motivated by the why. Motivated by the why. Why do we forgive? Well, we forgive because Jesus forgave us for a whole heck of a lot more than we've ever done to anyone else, or that anyone's ever done to us. So why? He forgave us. And if he forgave us, then we forgive. What does that look like? Well, we no longer hold them accountable for what they did. Okay, they still did it. It's still bad. It still shouldn't have been done. But we no longer hold that against them. Okay? And so I want them to be motivated by the why, and then I want them to act on that, to take action with the last person who hurt them. Not every person who hurt them, okay? Not someone from 10 years ago, but maybe that's fine too, because one of the things with application and messages is they may apply it in some way that I've never dreamed of, which is totally fine. I'm not offended by that, okay? And you shouldn't be either. God's going to lead people to do all kinds of things with your messages. But if you nail down what is the one thing that if everyone did it, it would be a win. If everyone did this, the desired response is that they're motivated by the why to take action and forgive the last person who offended them, the last person who hurt them, or the last, one person that has in a while, but especially the last one. What that does is it focuses your message. So the objective is crystal clear, the why behind the what of forgiveness, the desired response, crystal clear, motivated by the why to take action to forgive the last person who hurt them. What does this do? Well, for me, when I'm writing, when I'm delivering the message, and I'm trying to focus it, I'm trying to call it to action, I can, in my mind, go back to, what am I trying to get people to do? What is this sermon supposed to do? What does a win look like? Then I'm able to say, okay, have I done that? And all this is kind of going on inside my head. It's part of the preparation. It's also part of the delivery. It's part of the rehearsal. So that when I get up there, I know when I'm through here, I want people to take action, motivated by the why, on the last person who forgave them, last person who hurt them, to go forgive that person. Now, for you, it could be a variety of different things. If you're speaking on a passage of scripture, if you're speaking on giving, if you're speaking on pride, who knows what you're speaking on. Nail down those two questions. For your next sermon, just in your preparation, just jot down, what do I want this message to do, the objective, and what do I want people to do with this sermon, the desired response. And I think what you'll see is a much more focused approach in your preparation. As you sit down to write that sermon, you'll have such clarity that you may not have right now. I'd love to hear about it. You can share in the comments how this has worked for you. You can also check us out on Twitter @PreachingDonkey. And be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that we can help more pastors get this information and continue to help preachers communicate better. Until next time, remember, if God can speak through a donkey, he can speak through you, and he can speak through me. And that's awesome. We'll see you next time.